My daughter, Emily, was always a sweet and caring child. She had a way of making friends wherever she went, and her teachers often remarked on how polite and respectful she was. But when we moved to a new neighborhood, things started to change. It wasn't immediate, but there was something off about the other kids she started to hang out with. At first, I thought it was just the usual adjustment period. New school, new faces. It can take time to settle in. But then, Emily started talking about a boy named Ethan, who lived down the street. He was a quiet, withdrawn child, always hovering at the edge of the group. He seemed nice enough, but there was something about him that made me uneasy. One afternoon, I picked Emily up from school early, as she had a dentist appointment. When we got home, she seemed unusually quiet. She went straight to her room and didn't come out for hours. I thought it was just the dentist visit making her tired, but as the evening wore on, she became more distant. I asked her if everything was okay at school, if she was getting along with the other kids. She hesitated, then told me about a strange encounter she had with Ethan. He had invited her to play at his house after school, and she accepted. They went to his backyard, where he showed her an old, dilapidated treehouse at the far corner of the property. At first, everything seemed fine. They climbed up together, and Emily even mentioned that it was fun to see the view from up there. But then, Ethan began acting oddly. He kept repeating the phrase, "It's better up here. This is where the real world starts." Emily thought he was joking, but she quickly realized he wasn't. He grabbed her arm and pulled her to the edge of the treehouse. Emily, feeling scared, asked him to stop, but he only smiled a wide, unsettling grin. She could feel his grip tighten, and in that moment, she thought she might fall. She managed to break free and run back down the ladder, but Ethan's laughter followed her all the way home. When Emily told me this, I felt a chill run down my spine. I tried to brush it off as an overactive imagination, but something didn't sit right with me. I called Ethan's mother, Karen, to discuss the incident. She apologized and assured me that Ethan had a habit of saying strange things, but that it was nothing to worry about. She didn't seem concerned, but her voice had an odd tone, one that made me think she knew more than she was letting on. A few days later, Emily seemed to be avoiding the treehouse, which was unlike her. She became more reclusive, not wanting to play outside or even go near Ethan's house. I couldn't understand it, but one evening, when I was cleaning out the garage, I found an old photograph in a dusty box. It was a picture of Ethan and another boy standing in front of the very same treehouse, but something was wrong. The boy next to Ethan didn't look right. His eyes were too wide, his smile too forced. I turned the photo over and found that it was dated 1987, long before Ethan was even born. Confused, I went to visit the neighbor again, this time without Emily. When I knocked on the door, Karen answered, and her expression shifted when she saw me. I asked her about the photo, and she quickly dismissed it, saying it was just an old family keepsake. But then I saw it. The faint outline of the tree house in the background of her house in the exact same spot. Karen started to act defensive, and I could feel the tension in the air. I left the house, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. That night, I woke up to hear faint whispers coming from Emily's room. I went to check on her, only to find her standing in front of her window, staring out into the darkness. When I asked what she was doing, she simply said, "Waiting for Ethan. He wants me to come back." I was terrified. I took her hand and led her back to bed, but as I turned to leave, I heard something else, a soft tapping coming from the window. I looked out, and to my horror, I saw Ethan standing by the treehouse, grinning at me with those unsettling eyes. His figure was barely visible in the dim light, but there was no mistaking his presence. The next morning, Emily refused to speak about the events of the night. I didn't push her, but I knew something had to be done. I spoke to the local authorities, and when they checked on Ethan's house, they found that it had been abandoned for years. No one had lived there in decades. I still don't know what happened that night or why Ethan seemed so familiar. But as I sit here writing this, I can't shake the feeling that something is watching us, waiting for the right moment to come back. The whispers haven't stopped, and Emily's nightmares have only gotten worse. I fear that the treehouse is more than just a place. It's a gateway to something much darker, and I worry that someday Emily will be called back to that place.